Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of My Faith with Homer and Pip. Homer?
Jared Allen gets into the NFL Hall of Fame, a lifetime chance to speak. And he says, regardless of Hall of Fame, no Hall of Fame, you need to remember Jesus Christ is always first.
Hmm. Hmm.
As I've said, so many public athletes choosing not just to talk of their faith, but do it strongly and quickly and early and in the most important situations. He's the latest.
Reading a book about Ty Cobb, and of course, many fronts, perhaps the greatest ball player of all time, one of them, but seemingly not a good person off it. But he said, there are two people I love in my life, Jesus Christ and my father. And the goodness of God is everywhere, as Homer likes to say, and I've taken that upon myself. And the goodness of God is in our guest here on My Faith with Homer and Pip. His name is Bart Gaffney, and Bart, we are delighted that you're joining us. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, you know you have big shoes to fill because your mother, Gail, I call her Saint Gail, is on the podcast as well. So we can't wait to get going. And there's a connection behind how you live your faith. It's evident to see, but now we'll get to hear it. Homer always teases us off. Go ahead, buddy.
I've never teased before like this because I'm looking at Santa Claus. Everybody is seeing Santa Claus. And I know that person's name you say isn't Santa Claus because Santa has only one name. So, Santa, I don't know exactly who you are. So, I don't know how you choose to start your faith story. And if you're not Santa, why you certainly look like Santa. I got so many questions. Take it away. I don't even know your name.
It's Bart.
All right.
My name is Bart Gaffney. I believe that on an earlier cast, you had my mother, Gail Gaffney,
Correct.
witness her faith. And I remember when she was
She did
first,
not look like Santa Claus's mother.
well, I'll tell you what, um, I'm a second generation Santa Claus.
All
Okay.
right.
And my father and my mother used to portray Santa and Mrs. Claus for St. Peter and Paul Church in Pewaukee and Duplainville. I gotta make sure I say that right. And I'm happy to carry on that and be a second generation Santa Claus. So, little tidbit you didn't know about. And it was many, many years in between her coming out as Mrs. Claus and when I finally donned the red suit and got very serious in the last half a dozen years or so that I said, Mom, I need you to get back into it. And my wife is my Mrs. Claus, but I went and bought um, Gail, my mom, uh, um, more of a nanny Claus. So she's Nana Claus now, and gets me pulled into Queen of Apostles for a woman's sewing bee gathering or something like that they do every year. And I come into Santa and she comes all dressed up. And we still get to do the family thing as Santa and Santa Claus. So that's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Just awesome.
And now, since now I know the facts,
Yes.
your faith story and my fascination is always greatest about wondering how you choose to start it.
I didn't start it. It started me. Okay. I grew up in a very um, Catholic oriented household. We went to a little chapel of a church. Actually, the building still stands, but it's more of a historical monument now. Um, and that's our family church. When that church, St. Peter and Paul, got so big that they had to build a new facility just down the road, it became serious as far as church business goes. And my father, my uncle, my grandfather, and myself all served on the original parish council, the formation of it, including um, the articles of incorporation and all the dotting of the i's and crossing the t's and stuff. And I wanted to be their first youth representative, so I started the CYO at that church at the time. Um, my brothers and I were all altar boys, yada, yada, yada. So we had a pretty strong upbringing in the Catholic Church at the time. So that's where it started.
And then,
And then, well,
at what age did you decide this is what you believed in? This is what you were doing, regardless of the family and regardless of maybe everybody else you knew and their own faith?
well, this is the right place to confess and to talk about your faith. And I'll be honest with you, I still haven't got there yet. My faith is not as strong as I wish it were. I find that I'm constantly challenging myself and um, pulling myself back to center. Um, I find that that's better accomplished when I surround myself with people of faith. But outside influences and politics and the thing of the day and all that just seem to make me question my faith. And then it takes the quiet times or those special times when I get pulled back in. So I am constantly struggling. I would never align myself with to be equal to an apostle, but I'm one of those bad apostles that were constantly questioning their faith and getting pulled back in by Christ to say, no, this is where you got to be. And it'll be an evolution until my last breath, I'm sure. There are times when I've been so rock solid, and there are other times when I'll get my own little personal wake up call in the back of my head to go, what did you just do? What did you just say? What are you thinking? You know? So I when I was invited by Tom to join this, I thought about it, and actually after I said yes, I was going to call back and say, Tom, I can't do it. I'm just not worthy to talk about my faith because my faith isn't as strong as I wish it were. You know, like I said, there are times when I'm spot on, and there are other times when, I let things get in the way and forget about what's really important. And I'm a terrible example of what faith is. So I guess from the cheap seats, a fallen Catholic or whatever, I'm just saying that I struggle. And if it weren't for the fact that I align myself and aspire to be something greater than I am, that I'd be in more trouble than I am.
All right, let's get to rock solid because at some point earlier, it had to be rock solid for you to decide to pursue this. Because even in pursuing it, you've talked of your humanity, but I'm making this assumption it's the rock solid that was necessary to build you to a certain level, and it's still there enough for you to be human.
Well, thank goodness I was afforded a good foundation in it, including in our growing up in our household. It was, we were one of the families that, after church, the priest would come over and have brunch with us or whatever. Um, and even socially outside of a Sunday, aligned ourselves and would visit and invite them to holidays and so on and so forth. So it was always there. Those good examples were always there.
But then they're gone, and you've moved on. You're somewhere else, and
Yeah.
now it's up to you.
And so if you it seems to come out of tragedy a lot of times, right? When you hit your lowest. And it's not that I haven't had some of those. Everybody has, right? Um, one time that stands out, and it's relative to what you guys were talking about earlier. As a young father, we experienced a house fire. And I don't know if Mom talked about that at all during her podcast, but we were actually, I was attending Westbrook Church at the time. I was trying to find a church out by us, and I was getting into, trying to find what spoke to me. And so we were going to some of the Brook churches, and I was at Westbrook. Got attached to some of the ministries, including the video ministry, where they would put on dramas, and we were working on the Christmas drama. And this is going back to the 80s. I was working for a video company at the time. Matter of fact, selling broadcast equipment to four-letter call stations in the Milwaukee area and with the state and so on and so forth. So it was nothing for me to pull out of the rental inventory a piece of equipment, bring it home, and just kind of mess around and do my own thing. So a close friend of mine was going to be the Ted Koppel, and he was going to magically transport back to Bethlehem and speak with Joseph and Mary. And we needed some creative way to make that happen. So I picked up a sound clip from a modem with the phone call going off and all the bzzz and all that kind of stuff, and put a PowerPoint to it so it would have this small transition. But we worked on it. My friend and I worked on it all night to try to get it right. Okay. Fast forward to, well, let's put it in the can. I got it on my SVHS video tape, and he goes home. As he's leaving, he notices that my garage door is open about that far. You can actually see the light still on underneath it. And this is, December. And we're like, what the heck is that all about? This was December 14th. But he didn't tell me about it. And to this day, he feels terrible about it. Well, what we didn't know is we had an older school garage door opener operator that ran on a belt. The belt had snapped. The motor kept running. And finally, in the middle of the night, that motor overheated and started the cars in our garage on fire. So we had a house fire. We were, and I say saved by a guardian angel. There was a Journal Sentinel delivery person who was making the rounds heading for our subdivision and could actually see the orange glow over the top of our subdivision. Raced to the house, banged on our bedroom window, and woke up my wife and I. And I sprung up and I was like, what's going on here? I was thinking it was a burglar. And all we heard was, get out of the house, your house is on fire. Now, as yeah, the coincidences are just, it happened because the Lord put these people in our way. A week earlier, our local volunteer fire department had gone to the grade school where my daughters were and did a fireproofing, where they take the kids through the smokehouse and all that kind of stuff, right? And talked about fire prevention, what to do if you have a fire. So it's that morning, the house is on fire. It's 4:30 in the morning. We sprung up out of bed, put something on, run straight to the kids' room, burst through the door, and the smoke is like down here already someplace. My wife says to the girls, you got to get up, the house is on fire. And the oldest one does one of these things, is this a drill? No, it's not a drill. And as fast as the kids could, they dropped down on all fours, hands and knees, started crawling their way out and headed for the back door and touching the doors first, and all the things that the fire department tells you to do, they did. So we got out. And then the girls started crying because we had just gotten a new puppy a couple months ago that we were crate training, who was closest to the wall where the fire was, that firewall between the house and the garage. So I cowboy up and head back in the house and grab the dog and get him outside. And thank goodness we saved Cubby. So we're outside basically in our pajamas. And I realize we don't have any ID. We don't have any of these things. I got to at least get in. But before I do that, I don't want to see the neighborhood go up in flames. So I go down to the basement and I'm kicking the ceiling tiles out and turning every gas valve off that I can find. If this is going to go up, I only want it to be our house. Get outside, take a deep breath, go back in, and I'm going to try to get some ID. And as soon as I open the door that third time, I'm hit with a backdraft. And I was just black from all the soot and smoke and stuff. And that was the end of it. And we watched the house burn down.
Mm.
And the next day, after we had been put up in a hotel by the Red Cross, we're trying to get our lives together. Now this is December 15th. we watch the tree go down and all the presents around it, and you know, the kids are on Christmas holiday, and you know, lost the home. Um, my wife and I at the time, I took her out to breakfast, just the two of us, and I just said, "This is out of our hands. We have to put our trust and faith in the Lord." And this is the first day of the rest of our lives. Everything that we lost was stuff. We have our kids, we have our health, we have our future ahead of us, you know, and this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to go forward. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know where that came from. The words were coming out of my mouth, and I didn't realize I had said it till I heard it. Okay. Um, so there was something really deep that was telling me that this is going to be okay, and this is what to do, and we're going to be all right. And it's obvious that God was looking out for us because we came through it, you know, short short a house and a, you know, but we had the family intact, and that was a big moment for me. Now, um, of course, a family with little girls losing their home at Christmas time, we were like the holiday darlings, and had a lot of media attention. And there was someone other than Channel 6 that showed up in our face with microphones and just trying to be sensational about it. And I was like, get out of here. You have to leave, and you have to leave now. Um, and then Channel 6 showed up. Now, I had a little association with Channel 6 in years earlier, pre-children, going back to the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, um, because I was part of I was an organizer of a poster campaign for the troops when they would return back home from Shield Desert Storm. And I don't know if you can remember that. It was a Welcome Home Troops poster that had the big eagle on it. And we were part of that program, and Tom Hooper found out about it and helped us distribute all these posters all over Milwaukee and the surrounding area. And we were able to get him on the USS Hope in the Mediterranean in case there were any troops that would be wounded or whatever in battle, that they would see that when they came home. At all the Air Force bases and any place where there would be troops that would come home, we did that. That was knowing that my father, my uncles from the Vietnam War and my father from the Korean War, that they were not welcome back. So that was something we did. And that's, anyway, I had that association with Channel 6 and Tom Hooper, and it was because of that, when we did grant interviews or whatever, it was Channel 6. They just seemed to have a heart for what we were going through, and were very sensitive to it, not just trying to make the 8 o'clock news, you know, whatever.
I think I should ask Channel 6 now. Tommy?
Well, I'm glad to hear that the Channel 6 didn't offend you. Tom Hooper was a great one. Our guest is Bart Gaffney on My Faith with Homer and Pip. I'm Tommy Pippins. Our wonderful producer behind the scenes, making it all possible, is Brent Younk. And got to tell you that the Homer and the Holy Spirit, Bart Gaffney, came up with this. And I want to say two quick things before we move on. Number one, when I go to confession, the ears of priests burn. Thankfully, apparently, they say they don't remember the sins. So we're all in this together. Ain't nobody better than the other one. And if we have listened to you, the goodness of God, again, coming up, and it's evident in your heart, it's evident in the ministry that you're involved in, that I'm eager to go forward with. But um, it seems as if in the toughest times, though, somehow you have felt the presence of God and surrendered it. I've heard you talk about, I should this or I should that. But as you remember the late great Reggie White, after the Packers won Super Bowl 31, it's not all about us. It's all about what Jesus has done. So uh, it's evident that he's done a lot in your life, and you're truly a man of God. Um, you've had difficulties in your family with siblings lost, and dad passing. And what did that do as it relates to your faith, Bart?
Believe it or not, it was, I wouldn't say it's my faith that got me through all that. And this will sound weird, but from my surviving siblings and the rest of my family, um, I got through it easier than they did. I didn't have the breakdowns. I didn't have, my father was dying in the VA from cancer. And on his last day, um, I had some time with him alone. And I asked if he had had his last rites yet. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. I wasn't going to let that go. I wanted to, I want to see him when I'm done. And I called a priest against his will. And I
Mm.
said, you need to hear his last rites, his last confession. And he did. And I'm glad. Um, I would love to believe, and my faith is that it helped.
I
um,
agree. I agree 100%.
right?
Tommy, that doesn't sound
I,
like the man that had so many questions.
Yeah.
All these other stories he told us. Oh, and
I'm with you, buddy.
this is also in the resume. I
Yeah.
don't know. Everything else is way below that on the resume, though I'm not a theologian. Tommy, what do you think?
100%. I'm in your club always, buddy, and particularly at this time, Bart. It's the evidence of your faith lived out. You know, words are great, prayers are awesome, right? They're key, but living your faith, and that's what you have done, and what a blessing that was for Dad. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else you want to talk about in that regard before we dovetail into your ministry here, your latest one?
my latest one. No, just that in the weirdest, strangest, wildest of times when I don't expect it, my faith surprises me, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, there is one other thing, and I have to say, I'm remarried. Um, our my ex-wife also remarried, and the marriage was um, resolved amiably, and we can still communicate and everything nicely when we need to, which is something that a lot of people don't have, right? Um,
Yes.
so I remarried later in life, and when we were going through our marriage counseling, I guess pre-marriage counseling, the one thing that the priest was asked us to do is, you know what, if you haven't done this, I want you to pray over your loved one in front of them um, at night before you lay down and go to sleep. And it had never occurred to me. I've never been great about being a witness, a verbal, active witness. It's always been very passive. But I found that to be really powerful.
Mm.
Um, for a while there, we were doing it every night. Then it kind of fell off. But every once in a while, I find myself out loud, just putting a hand on her and saying a prayer, and um, it just always seems the right thing to do. You had um, somebody on the cast a couple of years ago. I don't know if you're going to remember this or not. Danny Blazing. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Can you tell us a little bit
Danny,
about him?
Danny
Yeah.
Survivor Blazing. Um, anyway, you did an interview on him, a podcast, um, and this gets into uh, when people sometimes will say, "Oh, how what a small world! It's 6 degrees of separation." Yet, if you're witnessing, you might say, "What a blessing it is that God put us together,"
Mm.
right? And it's saying the same thing, but um, one is witnessing and one is not, right? Sometimes I read the room to see if it's appropriate for me to witness, and I wish that my faith were stronger, that it didn't bother me to do that. You know, I'm pretty I choose my times to do it, and that's something I wish I could be better at. But I was having breakfast with him this morning. He was telling me how I was lamenting this whole thing about, you know, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. I should call Tom back. I'm not worthy. And he's like, dude, just do it, you know? And he said, I did it. I'm like, what? And so the Lord put Dan in front of me, you know, and pushed me to not call you up and say, I can't do it. There you go, right? Just one of these things that just keep popping up. And so we were talking, and he's like, well, you know, what message do you want to bring? And I said, well, the way I'm feeling, um, I've always aligned myself with Matthew 8, 5 through 13. Okay. And when I learned it growing up, it was you know, basically, Lord, I am not worthy for you to come under my roof. Speak but the word, and my servant shall be healed. And of course, um, Catholics are famous for changing things up, and it doesn't seem like that anymore. You know, depending on what Renaissance we're going through at the time. But I love that story. I love the story of, you know, a Roman soldier, an outsider, um, seeing faith and converting, I guess, you know. When I see, I have never had Jesus Christ stand in front of me, but my biggest strength is probably from watching other people and seeing the goodness in people,
Mhm.
um, and how they walk the talk that sometimes will pull me back to center, you know. And again, I said it earlier, surrounding yourself with people like that helps a lot, an
Mhm.
awful lot. So when you were talking about what led me to this journey, right? You know, it's one thing to say, well, I'm a second generation Santa Claus, but where the fire was really lit, and no pun intended about fire, goes
Mhm.
back to our house fire. Okay. So if you remember my story, we're displaced in a hotel or something put in by the Red Cross. And, you know, donations are coming in. So I've got a brand new sweatshirt. That's an old sweatshirt from somebody else that I've never worn before. That's my sweatshirt for the day. You know, that's how we lived in that first month. Um, Out of nowhere, and I mean out of nowhere, there was a knock at the door at the hotel, and a Santa and a Mrs. Claus came through the door. Now, mind you, this is like now December 17th, 18th, and I'm a young father who has lost his home, who has lost, you know, all worldly possessions. Um, my work is floating me some time off, but I don't know if I'll have a job to come back to. Um, the house was probably not insured for as much as it should have been. And all this is piling on when all of a sudden Santa and Mrs. Claus come through the door. And to see all the distress and everything that my daughters were under instantly lifted by the goodness that these people bring into their lives. And my heart sang. I mean, I was openly weeping, seeing the transformation and just what the persona of what that figure means to people. That I said I'm going to be that guy someday.
Mhm.
I want to be that someday. I want to do that for children. And a year later, I bought my first suit, and I would do it for the neighbors and the family and so on and so forth. That was in the late 90s, and I've been doing it since. Now that I'm in my, you know, retirement of 65 now. Um, we made an investment pretty hardcore. We had a business. My wife and I had a business that I married into. She was a service master disaster restoration company.
Mhm.
Well, here's more faith for you. Just talking, right? Um, She owned a franchise in 2 states, in Colorado and Wisconsin. We'd fly back and forth and take her business with Service Master. And it wasn't until I got into the company that I was informed that the company Service Master was started back in Chicago as a little mom and pop janitorial business. And it literally means to serve the master. It's a Christian-based company. And the first convention that I went to, that all owners are, have to go to, I'm like, I don't want to go. But the convention started with a prayer. And it became a way for us to conduct business. That was our moral compass. We weren't the most successful franchisee or anything, but it put us in a position where we could help people like I was when I had my house fire, to help them through it. But not only did I have sympathy, I had empathy. I mean, and I could tell them that I understand, I've been through it. And these are if you're not feeling it yet, this is what you're going to feel. These are the things that are going to happen to you. I'm here. I was put here for things beyond my control to help you through this problem. And that was very powerful too. So when we got out of that business because basically of COVID, and it was hard to get work and people were staying home, and we're almost ready for retirement anyhow. We sold those franchises off, and Sharon, my wife, went back to school to get her master's in psychology. So now she's a therapist, clinical therapist. And I'm the Walmart greeter at the office. And that's my job. I get to see people all day long.
The best. I'm sure you're the best.
I have a lot of fun with it. I do. But Sharon has allowed me to pursue this calling to be Santa Claus, and to bring that kind of joy to children and children of all ages, I should say, and family. So, like any business, I mean, we still have to look at it as a business too. There are some core values, and our portrayal, it targets um, certain clients. We have been to schools called Santa America, and actually we're going back again over Labor Day, where we get training to work with kids that are critically or terminally ill, that are on the spectrum, special needs, have PTSD. This year they're adding children that are victims of trafficking, some real hard things, to know how to deal with it, and to help these children through these situations. So we're prepared. Um, and that's what I want to do. This is. I have friends that when they retire, I just want to golf for the rest of my life. I just want to go fishing for the rest of my life. I just want to this or that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so, knowing that that's the plan, that I want to do this for the rest of my life, right now we do a lot of in-place appearances, and but we know that there's a time where my legs are going to give out and I'm not going to be able to run around. I still want to do it. So this is what you're looking at. In the second half of the last part of my career as Santa Claus, I want to be able to visit children virtually, to visit kids in a children's hospital where they can't get out, or they just can't afford to go to the mall or anything. I can still visit them in their home. So we've created this magical environment where we can do that.
I know Homer's got thoughts and perhaps a question or two more, so go ahead, buddy.
Oh, no, I mean, so this is where it's taken me, and there's a reason why. Um, you can call it a ministry, you can call it a calling, but who wouldn't want to bring some joy to God's children, right? So we've been very careful about some of the organizations that we work with, right? We do a lot of pro bono work with Make-A-Wish and Wish Makers. There's a group called the McGuire Foundation that they collect toys and also school supplies for like 500 um, underprivileged families in the area. Um, right now, we're working with the Flight to the North Pole, going into their 40th anniversary. This is the group that started what is now an international phenomenon right here in Milwaukee, where they get families that have children with childhood cancer, and they put together like a mock flight to the North Pole. This year and in the past years, we've been working with Delta Airlines. Before that, I think it was the Air National Guard, where these families would come through TSA and pre-TSA, right, to a private gate, load a jet. The airport would shut down for about a half hour. For 20 minutes, this jet is taxiing around and making all kinds of noise, and winds up on the far end of the field where the commercial hangars are, to a fixed base operator there that has allowed us to use their corporate hangar. It's all pipe and draped and carpeted and tables set up, and it's transformed into the North Pole. And for a day, we get to treat the family, not the disease, and give them some respite. And um, it's those kind of moments, to call on a child that's not going to see another Christmas. There was a little girl in Pewaukee a few years ago that I called on, and got to see her in her last days. And those kind of visits are very powerful when you feel like you get a chance to, guys, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
100%.
you may have answered this, but I do want to ask it again. In your life,
hmm
when have you felt closest to God?
There is no one time. There have been many times, all little snapshots. Um, and it's I have had them both during tragic times, but I have been surprised when I felt him in the quiet times, when I'm just, daydreaming, staring off into nowhere. My mind is nowhere, and all of a sudden, I'll feel it. So it's hard to describe. I guess I'm I
You
guess
are
I,
the
I guess
most
I'm
difficult person assessing yourself. It's so hard to describe, and you just give this brilliant description. By the way, I always think of a T-shirt for someone. Bart Gaffney, my faith surprises me.
There you go.
That is such a great line, and I don't know how many people say that, which doesn't mean they haven't felt it, but that's all I got, Pip, because I
It's
got
it's the oddest times. Who would have thunk?
right.
But all of a sudden it strikes me and I'm like, oh, that felt good.
You need to watch and listen more of the podcast, because the first thing you notice is, wow, there are a lot of people like me.
Oh, really?
Kind of the point of the whole thing. Yes, the
Okay.
humanity of your faith is so special.
I, yeah, you're a better judge of that than I am, I guess.
No, you're amazing. You have to find a way to discount your faith when in fact it's refreshing, it's honest, that's why we like doing this. Everybody's different, even though there's a similarity. I'll defer to Tommy because he probably explains it better than I do. But
Well, I mean, you're asking all the right questions. You're hearing all the good stuff. I mean, there have been plenty of times when I've been in the tank where I'm
of
like,
course,
this is what's the matter? This is all, this can't be right. And then out of nowhere, it'll just hit me like, yes, it is, you know? I mean, and some people will use the right religious terminology. Well, that's the devil trying to, talk you out of your faith or whatever. Okay, what it, it's me, and let me take responsibility for my own faith. And I just need to allow it to happen more and not question it so much, I guess. I don't know.
That's
It's
pretty good.
it's just
Bobby?
it's
Yeah.
hard it's hard to quantify. It really is. And it changes like the Wisconsin weather, you know,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yes.
you know,
I'm,
it said that.
I'm constantly fighting, and I'm constantly trying to remind myself to be a better person and to um, put my faith in Christ and not in my abilities, right? You know, that
Good. That's perfect.
things are beyond my abilities.
Yes.
I can't fix everything,
Yeah.
you know, and then I shouldn't expect myself to fix everything. That's a hard lesson, right? You know, so
Trusting in Jesus and giving of control. There are so many things I could say, but it's not pertinent. But I do want to say thank God for you and Danny meeting up for the meal and that you came out here, because when this is posted, there will be people who will be blessed. Um, St. Augustine, someone once said, the only difference between a saint and a sinner is that the sinner gives up. And you ain't given up, Bart. So you're on your way to becoming holy and a saint, and it's a joy. And the Holy Spirit lives in you. You're receiving his love and you're giving it out. Whether it be kids with a last breath and the privilege of being there, can't even imagine all the people that you're impacting with your faith, including your family, and just your humility. It's just a joy to be around. You're a man of God. There's no question.
I just am now going to spend so much more time thinking, let's go, Faith. It's time for you to surprise me.
yeah.
Art said that's what it, yes.
Well, you know, you have to be open to listen to the surprises, I guess.
Yes.
That's the
Well
biggest
said.
thing. That's the
Thanks.
biggest
I'm
thing.
sitting here taking mental notes because you're teaching me. We're all in this journey together. Nobody's worthy.
Yes,
He
we are.
is
Yes, we
worthy.
are, right?
Yes.
And going
Yeah.
back to when I first started, I mean, if you don't surround yourself with people of faith, you know, why walk the journey alone? You know, sometimes you just have to listen. You know, somebody will say something that gives them a little bit of cue of their slant, especially in times where it's not correct to be wearing your faith on your sleeve, right? Even as Santa Claus, there are times when I got to back off, right? You
Mm.
know, where I have to be careful what I say. Um, but I'll tell you what, if there is an opportunity and I hear the right thing when I'm in a household or in front of a child to witness, I'm in. I'm all in, right? I'll
Well,
get
Homer, yours truly want to be all in your golf tournament next year at Western Lakes. Can you tell people about it if they want to get involved in this ministry, this calling in some way, shape, or fashion, Bart Gaffney, please? How can they do so?
Well, I'm a bad representative, but I'll give it a shot here. So annually, there is a golf tournament at Western Lakes for the flight to the North Pole. And the idea behind that is, and I think Laura and the job that she does running this is amazing. Um, Everybody wants to be above board, of course. So when the organization approaches a family to say, would you like to sponsor, or somebody to say, would you like to sponsor a family going to like to the North Pole? 100% of that donation goes to sponsor that family. Now, over on this side, to run this organization takes some overhead. There's all the rental of the equipment for the day and, you know, yada, 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 yada. So we have to raise our own funds for this overhead. There's a bowling tournament in the spring. There's this golf tournament in the summer that we use, and they strictly fund the overhead. So when we do approach the public for um, donations to sponsor a family, we feel good that every bit of that, right down to the last penny, goes to sponsor that family. I think that's great. That feels very above board, and it aligns with my moral compass.
That's fabulous. Homer, any other thoughts at all? I think you're muted, buddy. Your audio is muted, Homer. And we're hearing our producer Brent in the background. Bart, before I let you go, is
Hold
there
on.
anything?
I'm
Yeah.
I'm back. They
Okay.
say I interrupt too much. I'm not interrupting Santa Claus. This is spectacular. I'm done. Take it away, Tommy.
I gotta go. I
Yeah.
gotta go.
It's been is there anything else you want to share, Bart? I think you've shared it all. And when this is posted in a couple of weeks by producer Brent Young, it's gonna bless many people. So I got to go back and look up Danny from the previous podcast, Homer, and
All
be
right.
thankful. Yeah. Anything
I,
else?
and again, I mean, that's the idea of listening to that's how I met Danny. We're I go to Conomowoc. I stay with. Are we being told that we got to cut off?
I think Brent's in the background, so we can hear his voice. I'm
Okay,
assuming
all right.
inadvertently.
So anyhow, I mean, I'm now that I'm a low guy, right, and I'm semi-retired, I have this favorite breakfast spot that I go to just about every single morning. And the old timers, we sit around and we conduct city business. Not that we have anything to say or do about it, but we're all regulars. And Danny has come in a couple times. Well, I've listened to him and the way he talks. And here I am. I'm having breakfast with a man of faith, right? So we share from time to time. You talk about these quiet times, you don't know what overcomes you. Dan was going through a rough time. And before I knew it, I was out of my chair. My legs were moving. I walked over, leaned on his shoulder, whispered in his ear, and I said a prayer for him.
Wow,
Don't ask me how I got there. I couldn't tell you.
that is beautiful.
I don't know why it happened or how it happened. Before I knew what I was doing, it was happening.
You want me to take a car for a couple days and just help them out?
Thank you for your time and thank you for inspiring us, brother. We are just so grateful. And Homer and I, we are planning, Lord willing, we're going to play in that event next year and support it, right, Homer?
Yep, you bet.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, it'll be a joy. And with that, we would say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into My Faith in Homer and Pip again. This is a ministry that Homer and the Holy Spirit put together, allowing us to come across great men and women of Christ. And Bart Gaffney is a great man of Christ, and share stories which we hope will encourage you. We're all in this together. We've got one destination in mind. We're going to and through the cross of Jesus Christ. And thank you for spreading his love, Bart. It's been a joy. Love to Mother, continued prayers. So for the Homer and the aforementioned producer, Brent Young, and Bart Gaffney, our treasured guest today, I'm Tom Pippins. Thanks, everybody, and God bless you.